Heist kiss. The wind blew hard and struck Neve's face as she walked on the snow. The sun was in its full splendor, but it did not warm the girl's chilled body at all. The warm furs she wore lessened the cold a bit and prevented her from freezing to death. Her mission was very important. She needed all the strength that nature could provide her to carry out the task before her. It had all started 30 long moons ago, when food became scarce in their village, and the men had to go out in search of resources to ensure their survival. Day after day, the women anxiously awaited the return of their men and children. Their eyes grew tired from gazing at the immensity of the snow, and their skin was dried by the wind. But still, the men had not returned home. Restless, the tribe began asking the elements, water, wind, snow, to give them a sign, to show them the path they should follow to save their people. Nature heard their prayers and answered, pointing through a luminous green aurora borealis to Neve, who was chosen and prepared to set out in search of the men and save them. Armed with the few supplies left and the weight of her tribe's hopes on her shoulders, Neve plunged into the snow and ice, embarking on a dangerous journey. The day progressed uneventfully, and suddenly Neve found herself surrounded by a heavy night that made her heart ache with each step she took away from her village. She knew emotionally that she had the support of the gods and the strength of the elements, but her rational mind reminded her that polar bears and wild dogs weren't always friendly. Nevertheless, she had to persist. Her determination to move on and find Boreas was stronger than the wind and her fears. Her memories were the only warmth in the frigid night, keeping her going. They became engaged last summer, under the soft sun rising over their village. It had been a lovely ceremony. Despite the village being surrounded by ice, the air had warmed with the love of both families. The day Boreas had kissed her for the first time was a couple of winters ago. That night, Neve replayed the memory in her mind to keep up her hopes. It had been a cold and dark night, just like the one she had to endure now. After a successful day of fishing, they had gathered around the fire to savour the catch. The excitement and emotion of the moment made the calm and warmth of the bonfire bring out all their feelings, and once Neve and Boreas looked at each other, words were unnecessary, and they shared a kiss. Despite the strength those memories gave her, and all the effort Neve put in, the icy wind, the slippery snow, and the wind blowing from all directions gradually weakened her will. She stumbled over and over, and the impacts with the cold ground began to hurt, the pain seeping into her bones. Eventually, she could no longer stand. Her strength was drained, and she thought this might be her last fall. Now, she could only crawl along the ground, feeling like her final hour had come, yet she refused to believe that the gods had abandoned her when she needed them most. With the last of her strength, she begged the ice, the snow, the wind, and the rain to assist her. She pleaded with the sea, the stars, and the earth to help her escape the situation, find her beloved, and return to her village. From the immensity of the cold came the answer. Her hand slid across the icy ground, and she nearly overlooked a change in temperature at the surface. But she felt it. There it was. Her hand had collided with something warm, and most importantly, alive. For a moment, the wind stopped blowing, and a moonbeam illuminated that precise place where she'd rested her hand. This was nature's response. An intense heat began to flow through Neve's entire body. She knew that nature had not left her alone. She carefully observed the object from which heat emanated. It was a small mound protruding from the ice. It was a mouth. As strange and far-fetched as it seemed, her fingers traced the outline of a human profile. The lips were still, which seemed to indicate that the person buried under the snow might be dead. Nothing made sense. The skin was hot. It couldn't be a corpse. It had to be a sign from the elements. They were giving her an opportunity, and she had to take it. Her mission was to unearth the person who was hiding under the snow. Her hands were almost frozen. They felt hard and stiff. Shoveling the snow was almost impossible. Frustration began to overwhelm her. It was a unique opportunity, a message of hope from the universe. She had to free that person. Staring intently at the nose, Neve discovered it seemed familiar. Looking more closely, she realized it was simply a part of Boreas's face. At that moment, another light sparked within her. Now that she knew it was her fiancé buried under the snow, she saw clearly what she had to do. Placing both hands on either side of the mound, She crouched down and kissed those frozen lips. She focused on the natural forces that gave them life, the warmth of the sun even among so much snow, the pleasure of a crackling fire on a freezing night, a cup of hot herbs inside a tent, the warmth of her partner's skin, and his breath as his kisses wandered across her body. Neve kept her eyes closed while she evoked all those images in her mind. Though she couldn't see it, she felt a life force connecting her body to that of her fiancé, who began to stir beneath the snow. His arms suddenly appeared, and as he pushed his head through the white flakes, he embraced his beloved. Flooded with that life energy, the other tribe members began to emerge around Boreas. Slowly, an arm rose to the surface, and Boreas pulled it, helping to dig up one of his friends. A little further away, a big toe peeked out first, followed by a leg, and then the entire body of a young hunter. A while after Neve found her mate, all the hunters were with them on the surface. They had left their prey in a nearby cave, when an avalanche had trapped them all under a blanket of snow. Luckily for them, Neve had appeared, who with the help of the elements had saved them with a love kiss.